In the beginning, indigenous called it mystic, and instinct, the instant they saw ships in the distance, a glimpse in the storm's pigment when Indians crossed pilgrims, predicted the gift horse lip sync would turn course and switch swords mid-swing. Before swindling Christians swiveled long pistols, insisting they bought Plymouth with trinkets and malt liquor. Idiot wind minions twisting lost wisdom to false scripture. A million moths caught in the maw of a kingfisher. All drawn to the village torches flicker, how quickly the fickle applaud and witness ritualistic displays of public discipline, oblivious to all difference in crucifixion and lawn picnics, gory cinema for a pittance, glory grisly sinister laws attrition. The city of lost children is a chrysalis born stilted with umbilical thorns twisting round the Trinity's lost sibling and equipped to fill his boss's slippers. In a pinch now wished he'd missed the audition. Gone too late to rescind and abort mission. Ligaments ripped and torn sinew, glistening whips, cords, and thistle, the friction of raw tissue till it splits and pours crimson. A dead carpenter's cloth skin stripped, pity the cross killed him. Kingfisher, Kingfisher, your scream stones lifted but didn't skip the walls of this building. Listen, they still in the floor chilling, frost beneath boards, spirit forced to watch the fall of the living. Live water torture rise above these halls of mirror, through tar pits up darkened cliffs to the hidden tip of an old ark's conquered mission. The miracle secret of a single fish with which to feed a million. Wishes like whispers to kindred sisters, kindled seeds swim upstream in winter. Offspring minnow, water lilies filter mist in the distance. The river's source is a prison, a pillar of salt where mythic doves wash sin off the wingless. They bathe in basins of brimming blood with silver tears, but still continue singing. Innocence pinned to cage's limit, swinging from bars where guardian archer, ring finger, tickle whistling quiver, bow and arrow, stone rows of sparrow, clay pigeons, bones and marrow, jar of creation, focused trigger, jealous gods, broken mirror, and the shards of an apocalypse. Every earthly heart bleed on its sleeve. Child of roses, our dark hour speeds, vacant lot, tower on its knees, plot to plow, forgotten flowers scream, life for your crop, come reap this scarlet yield of bodies rotting in the breeze, a throne crimson, sowing steel through harvest of skin, arched at the seams, jawbone in sand, painted hands in a clap of thunder, charging from the east a dry stone. Our child Roland marches to the feast, no sound of water or cricket dancing in mud. Son of man, come in under these leaves, branching through the rust, and I will show you your shadow, extending each morning's rose through your back like a lantern of blood, then raising to meet you each evening with a hammer at dusk. Beneath wasteland gallows, your shadow handles its gun. Son of man, open wide your careless palm, and I will show you a cancer, branching to cancel the sun. I will show you fear and a handful of dust. It would be nice if we needed that, but I don't think we do, right? Right now, there's no problem with projection and volume?
No.
All right. I wanted to add really quickly, there's a head nod to T.S. Eliot and Robert Browning and Book of Genesis and Stephen King. There are definitely some images montaged in there. It's my work, but different people's phrasings. The T.S. Eliot poem to reference would be The Wastelands, and the Robert Browning poem to reference would be Child Roland to the Dark Tower came. So this is a remix of a Sage Francis song. White trash hip hop in here. So this is an open letter from broke ass Manville white trash to Sea Lion. Frank, look what I did, Frank. Look what I did to my stand. I broke it. You gave me the stage, gave me the mic, didn't say how to use them. Never hinted I'd relinquish every single piece of my struggle till I was left with nothing, but I took it upon myself to crush up my guts and distribute the dust. I got in the bus, yeah, I hopped in your van, jumped in the water, then crawled to the land. We come home lonely from the road, build little friendship castles out of the sand, try not to ponder whether we'll be around to watch them stand. A little bit of time for the folks and fam, but there's tide to fight, and before you know, it's right back into the saddle again, city to city. Going on tour must be awesome! Boston to Portland, Burlington, Hartford, New York to Baltimore, Philadelphia to Pittsburgh, Columbus, Ann Arbor, Detroit to Milwaukee, and every different date is distant places, dirty clubs and a plague of strange faces. You already paid dues, now strange famous, but after bills, I'm still unpaid, dazed and nameless. Along for the ride, on my way to Chi-Town, Denver and SLC, Boise? Yep. Seattle, Olympia, Portland, then Eugene, in an ugly German-infested van, dive motels and drunks with sweaty hands, right on through to Chico, Berkeley, and old San Fran, with a fever of 101 by the time we hit San Jose. But my road family don't quit, and I'll be goddamned if I'm the only one who ain't gonna play. So I pay my dues to Santa Cruz, and after that, LA. Now I forgot to call again. Even though she stayed up long to wait, my lady is 3,000 miles away. Getting further by the day, I feel it in the way my bones ache. San Diego, filthy money, bloody throat, still 20 dates to go, I mean it. Tempe and Albuquerque directly after Phoenix, Austin, Dallas, Houston, Kansas City to city. I'm already lost, so go tell the boss who the fuck is new in town. Being mini famous in Providence, Rhode Island sucks, and it makes me want to shout. But I made my choice. Now I gotta ride this cross till it bleed me off, and I'm forced to slide on down, ride on out through the mezzanine. My pound of flesh be a Nazarene, food from a farm that's a factory. Fuck a truck stop, I don't have to eat. I'ma trade this cow for some flax and beans. Have to make you proud of the scrap of peace my craft achieves. I'm adopted, ain't never gonna have a seed. That's right, I refuse to ever pass these genes. I just can't ignore the facts. Whole world's overpopulated. I'm lying if I say there's nothing I can do about that shit. I ain't no teen idol. Just your average Billy Joel, piano man, hopeful with my own checkered dance floor to grace and painful look on my face, cause at my shows the crowd ain't always that packed, but the world is still on fire, and the louder they clap, the faster it burn, the less I'm able to make the connection between what I see in the street and hear in the news and the fear that is bruised in my facial expression. I don't need your go ahead to go ahead. The pendulum is still in swing, and it just ain't that much time between your breakfast call and that last supper. Now I knew shit wasn't gonna be easy, but sweet Jesus, I ain't wanted to sleep with even a single person since she decided to leave me. Way too many books to read. Now I ain't got no one I really want to share them with. Out trying to save the world. When I should have been home in my beauty's arms. Reached out for a dream, but let go of my only shooting star. Hey Frank, look at me. Whole world's on fire, and all I got left is this dry wooden heart. And the force of my love was strong. The sea lion laid down long. Song in the air, why should singer care when a singer can be among songs? river basins, libraries, fishing line. This notebook is alive, like 100,000 fishermen, each kneeling to open a separate can of worms at the same time. Each flexing tendril is a life sentence, screaming for completion, but sure to flatline if I forget why I pick up this pen. This is a room full of walking libraries in a world where resurrection will not be teleprompted. So why are we still practicing closed caption, body language like walking plasma screens with eyes, instead of opening our guts to read each other's minds? Why is it still so hard to stare in someone's eyes and find a friend instead of just another stranger passing by? I don't want to live like that. So these are my arms. This is my chest. Here is every vessel beating inside, and they are open. Whether or not you are willing to place yours in mine, this is the moment two people melt together for the first time. Unprying lips in the darkness to gasp, I love you. The utter surprise of not having to think it, as it unfolds into the universe of your lover's arms. And this is the entire world gone dark, like a Christmas tree in a dumpster when she tells you she's leaving. A blood-colored canary, buried deep in the coal mine of your ribcage, rising to break bars and shoot towards space when she called to say, I love you, let's give it another try. I miss the way the sun smiles on your face. Come home. One summer afternoon, find the apartment building behind yours, painting itself from an easel of living fire. Hundreds of gallons of water from fire hoses you can't see, arching high over its roof into the boughs and peaks of the lone oak tree in your backyard. Breath choking back in your mouth as sunlight catches each bead before it finds the ground, like a daytime disco ball under a canopy of bark, a piece of your heart, unseen, tasting destruction and finding it sweet, watching a man-made building burn to its knees while the last tall tree in your neighborhood continues to breathe, like a glass needle, holding a handstand on a length of fishing line, 1,000 leagues above a sea of concrete, and you are the carrying Kevin, trying to fit your tongue through its eye. And honestly, you must now decide between telling the truth and giving the lie that might save your best friend's life. This is the motion of river to basin and Moses to basket, sand to sand and past to ashes. I was told of a promised pasture at the end of the path, but I no longer believe there is any gate or heaven behind through which I might one day pass. And you know what? This life is already rich. And I am a wealthy man, standing before you now in rags, like a sack of dirty laundry, but I am trying to come clean. My name is Jared, and I can do more than scream. Tonight, I see 50 faces, blazing in the darkness like flames, and you are all so beautiful. This stupid fucking world has no idea what to even do with you. And of all the rib cages, canaries, and coal mines, river basins, libraries, and fishing line, this moment is all that remains of the vast empire of yesterday. One single grain of sand. It is time for us to resurrect, and I am begging you, give each day your mother's name, paint every page with her breath, then accept the hands of those standing next to you, and begin again.
I have a cold and I didn't even think about it. Should watch that.
Move to the front.
You deserve it. Nice.
That's hot, man.
You win that round. So, this is called Green and Thick as an Egg Yolk. It's a bike riding story. It's a bit longer than it should be for a live performance, so I'm going to patch you in about a third of the way through. The background for where we're going to jump in is that I left my phone charger at my friend's house. My phone is totally dead, and I'm in the middle of my workday and I can't use it. So I've got to ride my bike all the way from downtown Providence to the east side of Providence to get my phone charger. And I get there, and the charger is not in the mailbox, or they said they left it, and nobody's home. And I start to get pissed off, but then I realize that I could very easily, be living in South Providence as a 13-year-old kid with no parents in the hood, or I could be in Palestine or Darfur or anywhere, and it's a beautiful spring day, and I'm like, you're an idiot, you have no reason to be upset over a fucking phone charger. Get some errands done, and then go home and get a cup of coffee. And obviously, maybe not obviously, but I've been vegan for 11 years, and I don't think that everybody should necessarily stop eating meat or, crazily believe in what I believe in, but I do believe in buying locally and, factory farms fuck shit up. And by the same token, I don't ever want to buy chocolate when it comes from a slave plantation somewhere in northeastern Africa, and by the same token, I don't ever want to give my money for coffee that comes from some ridiculous slave coffee plantation. So, how does that tie into this? Bike riding, phone charger, putting things in perspective. So, biking is about math. How much time till this light turns? How much space will I have in between traffic and that car door if it suddenly swings open? If I have a couple errands to run, is there some place I can get them done without having to ride back and forth across the city all goddamn afternoon? So, I set off for Thayer Street, avoiding traffic, using back roads, skipping the biggest hills, and having fun. I was smart enough to be wearing shorts, and the air felt nice on my sweaty legs. The skin on my face is already tanned and used to the sun, so the mid-afternoon rays beating down feel nice rather than deadly. Cruising in and out under the shade of trees, I make a left on Angel, go down a few blocks and cut up by the Wheeler School. There's some construction going on and a dangerous-looking corner, but no pedestrians in sight. So I head up on the sidewalk, bypass the workers, and then return to the road. I make my corner, pull off back into the lane, then coast to the middle of Brook Street. At which point, I raise my left hand to signal for a turn, and suddenly hear a loud, screaming horn. Can you help me, crowd participation, maybe make all a horn sound, like a gross traffic horn sound? That's good. On three. Okay, I'm riding my bike. It's gonna shit out of me. 1, 2, 3. I glance back, and there's this blue and white cabbie behind me, making disgruntled hand gestures and looking all upset. I make eye contact, nicely, and then, following Rhode Island law for road bicycling to the letter, I re-signal my turn as if to say, I'm turning left now. And in order to do that, I have to be in the middle of the lane. Sorry, I'll be out of the way in just a second. I begin heading on to Meeting Street, at which point, the taxi then actually attempts to speed through me. Now, there's a line of cars at the red light a block away, and it seems as if this guy's life depends on whether or not he can get his vehicle in line to wait with them before the signal turns. Like, it's his duty to get up there and wait with them. Like, not only am I just another stupid kid on a bike, and not only am I completely and utterly fucking up the program, but like, I'm actually standing in between him and some function so crucial that the absolute and immediate removal of my person is the only conceivable option. He beeps. Loudly. Again. And this time, lays on the horn for even longer, then drives right up close to my bike, putting me at risk and making a ridiculous scene. Calmly, I turn, because biking is about math. Quickly, I judge the distance and lead his car a little. And as it passes, I hawk the largest, nastiest, mouthful of neon-congested allergy phlegm that I can possibly gather. Fire in the hole! And there it was. A a surprisingly large specimen. Wet, yellowish green, and thick as an egg yolk. Glorious and glistening, canvassed against a clear spring sky. Arching perfectly, it landed with an audible slap across the driver's side windshield of the shiny blue cab. The main sack hit dead center and exploded immediately, sending shrapnel gobs of spit in all directions. But the back end, now the back end curved up defiantly, and for a split second, flexed in midair, then finally came down over the top, like the tail of a jumping fish, thrashing the surface scum of a small pond before re-entry. What I mean to say is that it was a direct hit. A once-in-a-lifetime shot, really. Like a buzzer beater from half court, or a single Rebel X-Wing blowing the entire Death Star. The look of shock sweeping his stubbly, stupid face was nothing short of priceless. He had a weird little fit with his hands, and then leaned dangerously out the window. "You're an asshole, you know that!" Wipers and cheap Windex working furiously as he sped off into the afternoon sun. I smiled deep and kept pedaling. It was the kind of smile that can make a boy forget how crooked his teeth are for a moment. It's the kind of smile that can make anyone feel better about riding all the way over to the east side for a phone charger that wasn't even there. I don't know. Sometimes people get restless and they're not down to listen to a bunch of, stuff written up. I kind of feel like going with it, so I'm going to, and I hope you can roll along with me.
Good. Yeah, man.
What is it?
Brought my skates, let's keep on rolling.
Nice! I like this guy. What's your name, man?
Justin, dude.
Justin, we can get a fist instead of a germ ball.
There we go.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna have to get you at more shows. When you got a couple of people in it doesn't matter. Like I just did 8 shows with Rain Maida, who's like the lead singer of a big rock band called Our Lady Peace. And it's not like small, it's like his solo tour. And I'm humbled that he digged my stuff and wanted to take me along. But they're in like big bars and big clubs where it's all loud. And they're like expecting to see their favorite rock singer on his solo shit. They don't want to hear pissed off, angry, vegan bike kid, said. But I go in and make my case and I do my best. And, all the shows were great, but that's what it is. It's like, performing sucks. Like a lot of times I don't like it at all. I like kicking it with my friends in the living room. But, even though y'all are a bunch of nice people, most of the time when I'm on stage doing something like this, I feel like, like your collected energy kind of manifests itself, and its spirit animal is an anchor, a big heavy anchor that's like balancing on my forehead, and I kind of feel responsible for everybody's attention and making the moment dope. But when you have people like my friend here, or folks that were in the first 10 rows at those big shows with Reagan, them staying with you makes everybody else stay with the moment, and it makes it that much more easy, or easier to execute. So thank you.
Pay attention and enjoy.
This is called, and this is my second week being in between the Western Slope and Salt Lake City and Boise in the Northwest. I'm not used to the very dry air. I've been through here for like a day or two, but never for 2.5 weeks straight. And so this isn't something I read out a lot, but I'm going to do it. It's Salt Lake Crucifixion Blues. Yeah, it's all puppy dogs and vegan ice cream. Once, I took a train from Chicago to Salt Lake City, west of the plains into the mountains, and there were phone lines suspended from wooden crosses the whole way. Not towers or poles that sort of look like crosses, but actual, old-fashioned crosses. And as the train rose and fell, around corners, through tunnels, plunging into valleys they never left to my sight. I looked out my long window, and as we passed, imagined a different person crucified to each pole. I didn't mean to, but whether I wanted them or not, they were just there. Black silhouettes mostly, limp and casual, but some were clear, with faces easily discernible, torment and apathy alike. Miraculous landscapes at nearly every turn. I lost my breath as colors scattered over the hills and the dirt and the green things, where mountains became atmosphere and where the horizon lost definition. Rails and ties and hundreds of wooden crosses with imaginary carpenters and faces like my father's, dangling from their old splintery spines. Constant reminders over the miles. We travel through life like a slow train. Sometimes love can feel like death, and miscommunication is blood on the tracks. You know you love something when you're scared to lose it. And I'm afraid, because I don't want to lose anyone else. I don't want to let anything else go. I don't want to pass these judgments, hanging from their boards and looking down on me anymore, as this unstoppable freight carries me past, pinning every moment I couldn't hold on to, my weak palms and awkward embraces. It all comes back. Every young girl who wanted a friend and got a half-listening agenda engine instead. Every wide-eyed hopeful who thought I'd be a hero without strings, but found me suited no different than any other stupid human in debt. Every longtime friend whose tracks I thought would always run parallel to mine. Every lover I failed, every mother I let down, each birthday I forgot, all the phone calls I should have made, they're all here. Each jury is a 12-foot-high wooden sentinel, bearing thick cables on its back like whips that stay, and I pass every pew like a pub crawl of guilty verdicts. Like I'm rolling through, just in time to hear each gavel fall. It's all here, along with the live current of 1,000 other landlocked voices rushing through the river guts of this thistle and this track and this train, sure and steady, 1,400 miles from Chicago to Salt Lake, traveling in the ridge of a wound, sown with crucifixion. It's like a lifetime. Here is a woman who turned and looked down into some valley when she was supposed only to follow. Here is a man without ambition or drive. He wanted to build things and get paid enough to live. The family who loved him but wished he understood compromise. The employer who thought him simple. And the officer with thick fists and black gloves who took him drunk to the basement, ripped his shoulders shirtless, but held off from administering the beating when he saw the potbelly and narrow chest. Here are all the mothers and the soldiers, the carpenters and architects of madness, bomb builders and bullet casters, the button pushers and the alchemy of radiation. Here is every creator and every betrayer. Here are the youth and the souls of every person who left somebody they were still in love with. Here are the destroyers and the fishers of men. Each judgment like a milestone, every 500 yards, and I wiped my eyes like a lifetime. It didn't end in a lake of salt. That's just where I got off. So I think we just reached like the 2/3 part. I think I'll do like two, maybe three more things depending on how we all feel, and that should be sufficient. Have you ever blown your nose in front of like 60 strangers before?
Is this like an intimate experience?
It's humbling. And I'm definitely a private nose blower. It has to happen, and it's not even something that I want to do. But if you noticed, and I really appreciate nobody commenting or shying away. I know that you can see the spit that's been flying out of my mouth for most of the set. And after more than 10 years of doing this, you have to make a decision. You can either be distracted by the spit that's flying everywhere, or you can just Throw caution to the wind. And let
Hand
the
out
chips.
ponchos.
And what?
Hand out ponchos.
Hand out ponchos. Let the chips fall where they may, and hope that folks understand that you don't mean it on purpose, but there's no way that you can not spray that shit like that. So, where are we at? 2/3. My mother came to this country at age 8 when her father moved the family to find work. She had to leave her home and forsake her native speech. She taught me my ABCs in this language watching Mr. Rogers in Sesame Street. And though I am choosing not to have children of my own, the ones that I adopt will learn the same through symbols like these. A is for agriculture, which is better than cattle deforestation. It takes 12 million metric tons of grain to feed and raise 3 million metric tons of edible beef. Take that same fuel and give it to human bellies. You could feed 4 times the people and prevent the slashing and burning of nearly 100% the forest. E is for economics, energy, and evolution. Fail to see how these things relate, and our globe will choke on the gaggles of genomes we are greedy enough to make. Huge industrial juggernauts kill. There are over 900 billionaires in existence. Double the number there was when I first wrote this poem. Total their wealth, and you've got more money than the combined asset of every working class person on earth. Billionaires, all colors, cultures, and skin tones, from the United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, and New American Rome, all blue-blooded, white-collared with apathy-colored eyes, and I go back and hold on to I. Its importance, like conservation, contraceptives, recycling, and research. L is not for love of poetry or hip-hop, but for logic. If the population of this world doubles in size 70 times over the next 150 years, there will be no room to run, farm, or breathe. That may not be enough to scare some into changing their daily routine, but as for me, I am terrified. Now, observe, P is for petroleum, oil, plastics, and practically every product and package within consumer reach or access. It's the same exact substance over which wars are fought, only in different chemical form. Governments send soldiers out to kill and die for more than just gas. P is for petrol, polymers, and privileged control over power sources. When international bankers and the industrial military complex partner, then perpetual war is the most profitable endeavor possible. So let's question our goods, who makes them, where they come from, and how they're distributed. We have a relationship with all of these things. When someone or some piece of earth is being destroyed in the process by which our goods get to us, then we are ultimately responsible for any harm done. R is for responsible consumers. Separate trash unfailingly, paper, plastic, and glass. V is for vegan, and that's where it's at. Which one of the following is a figment of America's fucking imagination? Is it A, Superman has X-ray vision, or is it B, diamonds are still being mined by black slaves in present-day Sierra Leone, where servants are subjected to several layers of X-ray radiation every single day just to make certain that no one is stealing? 4 whole years after the story already broke in mainstream U.S. media, without very many slam poets writing very many letters to their legislators or editors, and hip-hop and R&B have become some of the biggest investors in a venture destined to keep Africa indentured, sequestered, and bleeding. You and I can make a difference by not purchasing slave diamonds to symbolize our love in the ring of its meaning. Now they say that at poetry slams and protests we are preaching to the choir, that our real goal should be to get the ideas presented here to the outside world, but we are not the choir. We are not the fucking choir. I don't believe that we're working as hard as possible. I don't see us doing everything that we can, and evolution has to move faster than this. Z is not for Zion or Zechariah, but for Zenith. If you and I sacrifice our surplus till everyone has food, medicine, and a bed, then we can reach it. Can you make some noise if you heard Cheryl's badass poem about similar topics earlier? fucked up though, like you don't know, it's very hard to know where to spend your money, or, it's hard to find information about the companies that provide the goods that we use. I'm part of the Strange Famous Records Collective in Providence, Rhode Island, along with Sage and Bernard Dolan and Tom and Haler and a bunch of other folks. And Bernard and Francis have set up a nonprofit. It's a corporate watchdog search engine and community action group called KnowMore.org, like K-N-O-W, No More. And I'm trying to get the people who've listened to Strange Famous Records music to contribute to do citizen research on companies and then post the information. We're about halfway through covering the Fortune 500 right now. If you want to check that out, it's KnowMore.org. Another great site like that has a lot. They've been established for a much longer time than us. Is CorpWatch.org. It's just interesting when you get on stage in front of people, like I mentioned before, about feeling responsible for the attention of the people in the room. And I always want to make it clear and clarify that I hope it doesn't sound like I'm talking down at people. I obviously include myself in all the things that I'm writing about, and I don't, not Amy Goodman, not Howard Zinn, not Noam Chomsky. Nobody bats 1,000. We all do our part in ways that we can, and in the areas that we feel passionate about. I was a full-time counselor in a nonprofit that provides alternative living situations for kids who are in state. I don't work doing that full-time anymore, but I'm still a state-certified visiting resource with some of the youth that I used to work with. And nothing says that if you're passionate about something at this moment that you need to spend the next 15 years there, or that, that you have to bend how you're going to try to make a difference in your own way to what the collective counterculture opinion is at the moment. I just think the time for us to know nothing is over, and the time for us to do nothing is over. So as long as there's a way, as long as we find some way to work on the problem in our own way, and this probably will lead up to the point where I would suggest that maybe Idaho for Obama. We support them. I'm pretty far to the left of most Democrats, but when you see somebody who in 8 months has gotten more people off the couch than you have in 10 years, you kind of have to bow to that. So I called your father. It took me more than an hour, scratching on the back of an old med log at work, working in different combinations of 7 digits that used to be there any time that I reached. Those coordinates were so important that I'd have gladly agreed to fast for a week in exchange for just being able to hear you speak. He extended an arm through the receiver and brought me up to speed. As it passed, his sleeve spilled a glass of imagination, and 1,000 silent movies began to bleed. My tablecloth helpless in streams of fabric, saturating flash, visual flood. Then the place every one of my nerves end became 10 callous thick, and it's so much more than physical touch. I looked down at the numbers that I worked so hard for, and then began ripping them up. I really did know you once, and it cuts to believe that our time there is done. Just my ink on scraps of dead pulp, gone with the January breeze of a past year's dust. They rest in pieces by my heart's left feet, back at square one. And I don't want to write anymore. But what I wouldn't have done, to be back in my car with you, heading anywhere, blasting Pixies, Debaser, alone with. And if there's any justice in this world, you'll think of me every time you hear that song for the rest of your life. You said you were coming tonight, so I wrote this in hopes it was true that you were here, but you're not, and I didn't really expect you. It's all right. I've learned how to drop a shield, how to lose danger and forget fear, how to succumb to the dirt with flailing arms to make death angels in the post-battle gore of broken swords and the wreckage of spears. You taught me once in a bookstore, back when I could still tell the difference between seconds and years. And I want to thank you. So this is a single drop in a million sea basin of I wish you were here's. And this is me, casting a bottle off the edge of a pier, carrying my list of make-amend demands in a mode you'll probably never hear. A delicate picture globe of could-have-beens, devoured in the mess of levers and gears called coincidence. Eyes on the horizon, tireless and indiscriminate. I remember you singing in my presence of me, B. Dylan, Johanna, vision less, and the sound took my breath. It always made me feel honored and awed. The ballad of a jagged flower hardened by life in a garden circled with vultures and hawks. It took me 2 decades to figure out what you always knew, that the journey of 1,000 miles is a single breath, with or without shoes, and when there's little or no support around you, it ends with a lie in the dust or a forced campaign to mold adaptable ground roots. You're still standing. I found proof in your song, and things might have been different, but even war hath no fury like timing, laughing at the pawns scattered across her board. She kept us in pieces. I can't forgive, and I won't forget. You really look like a woman now. But last week, when we collided accidentally on the street, somehow still felt like the manic and scarred flower show. We embraced, said hello, goodbyes, and I felt myself letting you go. But what I meant was, I'm sorry. Even neither one of us could have done any differently. Jesus Christ, I'm sorry. And I thought you should know. Child, Youth, and Family Services, case 93,100 is rooting through the trash when a voice from above lands on his skull like a brick. That's disgusting. Don't you care what your mother would say? I never knew her. I do remember the way my first foster father's chin would collapse in the middle of my back every time he finished. The feel of sweaty stubble on my spine in the darkness. I could not say how many post-midnight visits he made to my bedroom before my caseworker. 93195 is moved like trash, with all worldly possessions in a glad bag, cinch-sacked from placement to placement. Now he shares a room with 2 foster brothers who all touch time whenever his new parents are away, often one right after the other, and it goes on for years. All this before his 10th birthday. By age 13, 93195 has violated 3 foster sisters and 1 young neighbor. He did not choose this. While America to photograph Mars and flex military bases like biceps around the globe, the war on terror is being lost. In foster bedrooms from Oakland to Providence, there are millions of cases before predators, contracted by the state, like hiring bandits to guard bank safes, like doctors without degrees, like calling yourself pro-life without ever having fostered, adopted, or big sistered a child. How is it possible that we have a direct line tuned to every womb on the planet but remain deaf to what is screaming on the outside? How can it be? There are so many crusaders on both sides of the line, only willing to fight for fractions, pro-choice, but never chose to vote or broke a for child services, pro-life, but never protected life by volunteering at a women and children's shelter or considered adopting before we made more. Is it possible for us to cherish what does not mirror our own image? This is an open plea to a massive yet apathetic pro-choice shadow army slumbering under canopy. Our hands are not so clean. And to my preemptive president, his master followers, and everybody in between, my kind of people, do not be your God. To one so young and defenseless, a foster father who cannot keep his hands to himself, is a terrorist beyond your ability to measure. Please, do not force into this world what you are not willing to be responsible for. For the sake of case 9-5 and every young prisoner of this war with no voice and broken light, my name is Jared Paul, and I am pro-choice for life. I really want to thank Holly for bringing me out. She really, until recently, had any idea that who I was or like took a chance on being a part of this tour. So it helped out a lot, and I just want to acknowledge that. I can't remember. Did we just clap for you? Did we do that? Can we clap for Holly? I want to thank you all for allowing me the chance. Taking part in this dialogue with me. I don't know what the rest of the format is of the evening. I'm definitely not going to rush out of here. I have flyers for Democracy Now!, which is the most important news organization that I know of at the moment, and I'm certainly down to stay after and talk shop about politics or social work or whatever. I feel like I was going to do some loud, upbeat, screaming stuff at the end, but I really feel like that's kind of a good place to end. Do you agree?
Yeah.
I do too. So thank you. My name is Jared.